welcome back to another review of the Robotech collectible card game starter decks. In this case, today we're looking at the Robotech Masters starter deck. This was another one that is loaned to me. It's not one I actually own personally, but very happy to have a copy of it long enough to make scans and a video of and send it back on its way to its rightful home. In the meantime, though, let's take a look at what it comes with. This is based on the second sort of season of the show. It is a two-player deck, 25 Southern Cross cards, 25 Robotech Masters cards. It includes Dana Sterling as her adult self as opposed to the infant baby we saw in the Blue Squadron deck. It includes members of the 15th Squadron and Zor Prime and the Robotech Masters. So let's take a look at what we got here. This one does actually still have the rulebook inside, but it's just kind of the same rulebook we talked about before. Nothing new. Still version 0.995. Never even made it to version 1 of the rules. Hilarious. But as we take a look at this, we've got two 25 card decks. We'll start with the what did they call them? The Southern Cross deck. We've got one kind of colorless action card here. Target Mecha in battle mode gets +3 weapon. It's a turn 2 card. This is actually a pretty cool action card. It's kind of basic, but +3 weapon on a turn 2 card means that you can have a really big attacker real early in the game. I would actually probably play this in quite a few decks. Angelo Dante, the Sergeant. He's a part of the 15th ATAC Squadron, which you'll see a lot of in this deck. Yeah, good old 80s being not incredibly politically correct these days. But this unit gets +1 weapon if it's in a skirmish against a female character. He's just a good old woman-hating sergeant. Probably a trope that doesn't really stand the test of time incredibly well, but here he is, here he exists. +1 weapon to anything that he's on. That gives an additional +1 if he's fighting against a female character. Send target Southern Cross pilot back to the base zone. As an action, this is a nice way to save a character if you are going to lose someone important. This is a good way to keep that. Bowie Grant, Private, 15th ATAC Squadron. This pilot can't be destroyed if you control Rolf Emerson. This pilot gets +2 weapon bonus if you have another 15th, we'll just say attack squadron pilot, just to stop saying that acronym. Action, target 15th attack squadron pilot gets +1 armored bonus. This is a 0 cost. This is a nice early play, but it's, it really gets better if there is someone else already in play, or if you add someone the following turn. So it should be a great turn 1, and then on your actual, on your next turn, play another pilot to pair with her. And then we've got Dana Sterling, all grown up from being a newborn baby in the Blue Squadron deck. But she gives other squadron pilots you control +1 weapon bonus while she's in the battle zone. She gives +1 and +1. She's a great unit, actually. Gives all the other characters +1, and she gives +1/+1 herself. Gives +2 to a unit, to a pilot if she's used as an action. But really, she'd be a better pilot. If you paired that up with this, she gets +2 weapon if you have another character in play. So this would make Bowie give whatever she's on +3. Really could pile up pretty quickly. Louis Nichols, Corporal. I'll teach you to tangle with Louis the Invincible. Louis the Invincible, it would be great if I could see you. There we go. You turn this face down and put it into your protozone. Target attacking piloted Southern Cross Mecha gets X weapon, where X is the target defending unit's armor. +1 armor. Search your deck for Southern Cross action card, reveal it, put it in your hand, shuffle your deck. This is a cool card. It's actually, in the 2-player starter deck, there's a card called Accuracy of Fire, I think it's called. And it makes your weapon value equal to your opponent's defense. This is kind of that action, but on a pilot. Essentially just means that you get rid of this pilot, and whatever you're fighting is going to die, because you have exactly its defense for attack. Then we've got Marie Crystal, Lieutenant. She's part of the Cavalry Squadron, which is slightly different than the 15th attack. But other Cavalry Squadron units you control get +1 weapon. Whoa, my goodness. While she is in the battle zone, she gets +1 weapon and +1 armor on the unit that she's on top of or attached to. You can search your deck for Sean Phillips, reveal it, and put it in your hand, shuffle your deck. So these are all nice that they all fetch kind of different cards out of your deck and things like that. Being that there are only 25 cards that exist for Southern Cross, it's nice that there's some fetchability between the cards. Nova Satori, another faction even. Global Military Police. Other GMP units you control get +1 armor while Nova Satori is in the battle zone. +1 weapon, +1 armor while defending. 2 cost, +1/+1, essentially. Really, it's if you have other Global Police members. You probably won't, though, because this is all that exists. Rolf Emerson, though. Turn face down. Put in your protozone. You may not mechanize any units this turn. Your opponent may not attack this turn. So this is a really cool card. You get him out on the board. He doesn't offer any buffs. He's not a pilot, but he just kind of sits in play until the turn where you're like, oop, you need, the, what do you call it? The oh shit button. Your opponent's got a board you're not really ready to respond to. Flip, they can't attack this turn. We got Sean Phillips of the 15th Attack Squadron. This pilot gets +1 weapon for each female pilot you control. The sort of inverse of our sergeant from earlier. Here's our little lady killer here. Search your deck for Marie Crystal, reveal it, put it in your hand, shuffle your deck. So they sort of fetch each other like the Max and Mariah did in the Blue Squadron deck. Then we're out of pilots. As you can see, there are some things that aren't great, such as Nova Satori giving other GMP units +1 armor. But we're out of those. So yeah, this half of the deck is not fantastic. Monument City, turn this face down, search your deck for a Southern Cross character card, reveal it, and put it into your hand. This is nice because it does help you get characters and things out into play earlier, and it is just a 3-cost card, so it's fairly easy to get out. It's a little bit of a generic effect. As an action, you can search your deck for a Southern Cross Mecha and reveal it, put it in your hand, shuffle your deck. As an action card, this is actually pretty good. To be able to just search your deck for any one of the brown Mecha units is really strong. I don't know if I'd ever actually play this as the location unless I really needed a good blocker, but that action is great. Chimera Fighter, as an advance action, transform a Southern Cross Mecha with transform in the battle zone. This is a good effect. It just lets one of your units that you send out to battle transform an extra time. Or, more importantly, you use this on defense. Send this out when your opponent attacks to switch one of your cards into a safer mode defensively. Target Southern Cross unit gets +1 weapon. Man, we're having trouble focusing on these today. All right. 1 cost 1/1/1. This really isn't a bad card. This is a pretty good way to keep your cards alive. I would run this. Sylphid Interceptor, Cavalry Squadron. Okay, so we are getting a little bit more of that showing up. This is basic, so you could have as many of these as you'd like in the deck. You get 1 copy of it, though, so you'd have to own, a dozen copies of this deck to run a bunch of them. So that's fun. But in our world where you can print and play, print as many of it as you like. This unit gets +1 speed while intercepting. That's a great effect. 1/1/1/2 2 speed. This goes up to 3 speed while intercepting. This is like the chump blocker. 3 speed gets in front of just about everything that isn't Max Sterling, and it just dies. It's 1 defense and 1 attack, but stops your good things from dying. It's a great card. GMP Robot, Global Military Police. Oh, hey, look, we've got some of these. That's good. Basic, cannot be piloted. 1/1/2/1. So this is just a little bit better defensive unit than just a straight ones across the board. And while that other pilot is in play, it would get +1 weapon. Let's see what she said. She was right here. +1 weapon and +1 armor while defending. Oh no, she gives other GMP units +1 armor while she's in the battle zone. Okay, so you put her on a unit, and then all of these other guys become 1/3/1s. That's also not bad. These are great. These are really, really slow, but they're great defensive units when your opponent is attacking your face as opposed to a unit. Again, basic. You can have as many of it as you want. Cavalry Squadron, getting into the Veritechs from this set. We've got the AGAC, Fighter Mode, Guardian Mode, Battleoid Mode, your sort of standard things there. 3 cost, 332, 241, 422. Standard stats for a 3 cost Veritech. It isn't basic, but it is just kind of vanilla. It does give a card +1/+1 though, which is good. The Marie Crystal specific named version. Solo transform, can only be piloted by Marie Crystal. If piloted, it can't be destroyed while attacking. This is a fantastic unit. 4/442, 3/5/1, 5/3/2. This is great stats as a fighter, especially. And if it can't be destroyed while attacking, who cares what the defense is? That 5 offense is fantastic. Veritech Logan. Advance, target Southern Cross unit gets +1/+1. Has transform 2/2/1/2. Battleoid mode 1/2/1. This one doesn't actually have a full fighter mode, which is cool. It's cool to see. We've got the Veritech Logan Marie Crystal. Can only be piloted by Marie Crystal, so this deck really wants you to use her. While piloted and in the battle zone, target Southern Cross unit gets +2 and +1. This is really good. 3/3/3/2, 2/4/1 is already good stats. If you have Marie on it, it gets even more of a buff. What did she add? She adds +1/+1 herself, so she's a 4/4/2. And she gives everything else +1 weapon, and then this gives everything +2 weapon and +1 armor. So this unit is giving all your other guys +3 by itself. That's huge. That's a lot of good aggro potential. Veritech Hover Tank. If piloted and in Guardian mode, this mecha has burst. So we're sitting here looking at this stat line here, 310. Has burst, so you put a pilot on this, and in any damage it does over the top of your opponent's defense goes to battle points. So that's good that its attack is already a 3 for a 2 cost. That's pretty good. Give it a pilot to give it a little bit more stats. That's pretty cool. Veritech Hover Tank, Bowie Grant. Can only be piloted by Bowie Grant. If it's in Guardian mode, it has burst, so it's kind of the same thing, but specifically needs its own pilot, but it does have a little bit better stat line. Hover Tank Dana Sterling. Dana's actual unit herself. Can only be piloted by Dana. If in Guardian mode, it has burst. 5/2/0. A 5 attack is pretty great. 4. And then if you have some cards to buff your other 15 ATC guys, this could be pretty big. Veritech Hover Tank Sean Phillips has to be piloted by Sean. If piloted in Guardian mode, it has burst. 4/2/0, 3 cost. Still decent. It sucks that so many of the cards in this deck are specific to specific pilots, since there's only this many cards that exist. But it does give you a little bit of cohesion within the deck. Angelo Dante can only be piloted by Angelo. If it's in Guardian mode, it has burst. 4 again. And Louis Nichols, same effect. Tokugawa class battleship. If you have to have a Southern Cross officer in play, target player may put 1 Protocost mecha from their hand into the base zone. So you just gotta pick a player and they gotta play a 1 cost unit for free. That's pretty cool, especially in this deck where you've got the basic fighters and things like that. This is a pretty cool card. 10 defense is still strong enough for a vessel to live for a little while, so not bad either. And then TriStar class large cruiser. You control a Southern Cross officer. Send this vessel to the discard pile. Opponent must send 2 of their units to the discard pile from play. So it's a 4 cost card. If you sacrifice 4 costs, you can get rid of 2 of their units. Now this is pretty good because you could pay 4 to get rid of like 10 cost worth of cards. But your opponent says your opponent must send 2 of their units to the discard pile. I would read that as your opponent chooses 2 of their units and sends them to the discard pile, so they could pick 2 1-drops. So there's good and bad times to use this. Discard a Southern Cross card. Target opponent must turn a vessel card they control face down. Put it into their protozone. That's a decent action. To have your opponent lose a vessel entirely is pretty strong. They do get a ramp off of it, but still, most people aren't going to have a ton of copies of their vessels, so that's pretty good. The first half of the deck, I'm not the biggest fan of. I think that it's a little weak in some regards. It does have some cool potential with some of the aggro options that it's got. With all of the burst and everything that it's got going on, it really probably does have something going for it there, but it just feels too limited in the card pool. I think if there had been more Southern Cross cards, this one could probably be pretty cool. But that first half of the deck, I'm not a huge fan of. But if we take a look at this second half, I do actually like this half of the deck. This is the Robotech Masters half. This is Allegra. She's a 0-cost pilot. Your other Robotech Masters pilot get +1 speed. This is Musica. Other Robotech pilots get +1 weapon. And Octavia get +1 armor. So you get the band out. Everyone gets +1, +1, +1. All 0-cost cards, which is great. And they've all got sort of their own basic action. Their regular effect is their action as well. Decent little start to your character pool. Robotech Masters Clone Soldiers, non-solo. So this is a unique kind of typing. So non-solo means it's not a character you can only have one of in play, but it's also not basic, so you can't run more copies of it. So it essentially means you can have 3 copies of this in your deck, and you can play all 3 of them, but that's all you get. If you control another clone soldier, it gets +2 bonus while piloting a mecha. So you get 3 of the clone soldiers out if you can. They're all giving +2. This is giving +1, +1, +1. You can see how the stats in this deck are trying to really pile themselves up. Robotech Masters Elders, non-solo. Again, can have up to 3 copies. Get it? 3 guys. Whoa. If you played this from your hand as a character, reveal a face-down proto card. If it's a Robotech Masters card, turn it face up. This lets you use actions in your inner proto area and get to use them a second time when you play this guy. You can really use that to your advantage and really milk some of the action effects on some of these cards. This one is search your deck for Zor, reveal it, put it into your hand. Here we've got Zor Prime. When Zor Prime is in the battle zone, target opponent must play with their hand revealed. Give you a little bit of hand knowledge. Target opponent must reveal their hand is just an action. He gives +2/+2, which is great. It is a turn 4, so that's a little later in the game, but +2/+2 is a really strong buff, especially getting this to your opponent's hand. Protoculture Matrix. Location. You have to control a Robotech Masters vessel. Turn this face down, put it in your proto zone. Return a card from your discard pile to your hand. It's a good card. Lets you get a card back. 3-cost location for 15 is pretty strong too. Not a bad choice. It's a decent rare. Bioroid Armored Fighter. Focus up for me here. Unit gets +1 speed when attacking, so it's a 2/1/3 while attacking. Makes it pretty hard to block against. This is a good unit for clearing board as opposed to hitting your opponent. Robotech Masters unit gets +1 speed as an action, so you can use it to beef other guys up as well. Bioroid Armored Fighter Group. 2-cost 2/2/2, can't be destroyed while attacking. This is always a good effect. And you'll see there's a little bit of a kind of combo that goes on in this deck that makes this a little bit better. We've got the Bioroid Armored Fighter Recurrence. When this mecha is put into the discard pile from play, you may return another Robotech Masters from your discard pile to your hand. Just get that recursion, literally recurrence, going on, where you lose a guy, you play this card, get another one back. You can kind of keep that loop going on as long as you can keep getting these guys back. 2-cost 2/1/2 means it's probably going to die a lot. As long as you've got 2 copies of this card, you just keep cycling them forever. Lose one, play the other one, get it back, lose it, play it. Good way to keep that offense or defense up and running. Armored Triumvirate. This unit gets +1 armor, +1 weapon for each Bioroid Armored Fighter Triumvirate you control. So you can literally have 3 of this. So this card would be gets +1 for each Bioroid you control. So if you had all 3, they would be 5/5/2s. That's a pretty solid 2-cost unit. So you play 2 of these on turn 4, and then those are already 4/4/4s or 4/4/2s. That's pretty strong. Bioroid Commander. While this unit's in the battle zone, your Bioroid units you control cannot be attacked by units with lower speed. So that's also pretty good, especially because these guys have 2 speed. That's already a great start. It gets out of the way of a lot of chump blockers and things like that. And this is a kind of a part of that combo I was talking about earlier. We'll get into him in just a minute. Bioroid Commander Recurrence. When this mecha comes into play, and if you played it from your hand, you can send a target proto card to your discard pile. If you do, return a Robotech Masters mecha from your discard pile to your base zone. This, instead of putting it in your hand, you sacrifice one of your sort of energy, but you get a free play a card from your discard pile. Really, really strong card. Run 4 of this for sure. Sorry, 3 of this. Bioroid Commander Sacrifice. Advance and destroy one of your mecha. Put target Robotech Masters mecha with proto cost less than the proto cost of the mecha you destroyed from your hand into, or from your discard pile into the base zone. So this is another way to just loop units. You play these guys that when you play them, get you cards back. Then you play this guy to sack this guy. Use one of the cards that gets this back, etc., and you can kind of loop that around. Bioroid Commander Zor Prime. This is Zor's actual unit. Can only be piloted by Zor. When this mecha comes into play, if you played it from hand, send target proto card to your discard pile. Return target Robotech Masters mecha from your discard pile to your base zone. This deck is literally just my unending army of guys. Anytime I play a guy, it's going to play another guy. It's really strong. Bioroid Soldier. This unit cannot be blocked. Great little 1-drop, especially if you make it so that if you've got the commander out that says that your cards can't be blocked by things with lower speed, or can't be attacked by things with lower speed, this guy's really, really strong. He has a 2-speed already. If you've got Octavia out, you can make him a 3-speed, and that's pretty hard to hit. He's just a 1/1, but if he can't be hit, then he's pretty safe, and you just ping him for 1 point every turn. Get a couple of those out, that'd be a nice way to rack up some points real fast. Bioroid Soldier Triumvirate. This unit gets +1 weapon for each Bioroid Soldier Triumvirate you control. So they'd be, 4 1/2s if you had all 3 of them on the board. Not bad little 1-drops. And, man, focus up here, please. Target Bioroid weapon gets +1. Target Bioroid unit gets +1 weapon. Decent action, but really this guy is another basic attacker. Bioroid Subcommander. Target Bioroid gets +2 weapon if you advance this unit. That's still pretty good, especially if you can give him +1 speed and then make it so nothing under him can hit him. That makes him a pretty safe unit to advance. Bioroid Subcommander Exchange. Exchange your target face-up proto card with a card in your hand face-up. Great way to get a card back from your energy that you can play now that you've got it, that you've got the energy, or now that you need it, and get a better card into your action spot. Great card. Bioroid Subcommander Recurrence. When it comes to play, return target Robotech Masters card from your discard to your hand. This one you don't have to sacrifice anything to get cards back, but still lets you get a card back to your hand. You'd still have to pay for it, but you don't lose an energy in the meantime. There's probably a great set of units you can run in this deck to run these and the ones that keep cycling things. I'm actually really excited to build a deck around that. Triumviroid Fighter. Basic Triumvirate. Cannot be piloted, cannot be intercepted. So this unit is specifically for targeting your opponent's units. It is basic, so you can have as many of them as you want. If you got other cards on the board, you could beef its stats up a little bit. But really, this is just kind of a little pinger guy to get like chump attackers and things off the board. Getting into the last 3 cards, Vessels. The Tyrolean Heavy Cruiser. You have to control a Robotech Masters officer. Discard a card. Target vessel must defend against this vessel. That's great. 15-10-1. 15 power is awesome. Discard X Robotech Masters card. Send a Mecha with proto cost X to its owner's discard pile. This is a great action, especially in a deck that recurs things from its discard pile. You can just sack your guys to, or you can just discard guys. You don't even have to sack cards in play to remove a card off the board. Really strong effect. Tyrolean Mothership. You have to control an officer. As an advance, send a proto card to your discard pile. If you do, put a Robotech Masters character from the discard into your base zone. So this helps you keep up the buffs that way. Keeps your resources up as well. You do have to trade a resource for it, but it lets you get a character back, which it means you're not losing a resource in the process. You can search your deck for a non-solo Robotech Masters character with the same name as a character you control, reveal it, put it in your hand. So you could just run these as actions to fetch the cards to keep the 3 individual characters kind of things. up as well if you didn't want to just play this as a unit, but I think this is a pretty good unit too. And lastly, we've got a real fun vessel here, the Trollean Transport Attacker. It's an 8/8/1. You have to have an officer, but it can attack Mecha. This is really, really strong. The fact that it's an 8/8 means that it can attack and kill just about anything that it has enough speed to get around to. It does need, you do need to worry about its speed being low, because it's easy to hit, but as an 8/8, that's pretty strong. And the fact that it can attack Mecha vessels normally can't do that. So this is a great beef attacker for board clearing as well. So as I was talking about with kind of the combos that you get going on, one of the ones that you can do is get the commander into play that says all of your units with can't be attacked by units with lower speed. Then you've got like your guys who can't be destroyed when attacking. And we get out, let's do some of that, and the one that gives us speed. So if we look at this little combo here, Octavia gives other pilots a bonus of +1 speed. This says if you control another clone soldier, unit gets +2 weapon. So turn 0, you'd play this. Turn 1, you'd play this as your next card, and you'd probably get this out as your turn 2 unit. Stack these together. Turn 3, play another one of this and whatever unit you're going to play. Turn 4, get this out. While this card's on the board, cards with Bioroids can't be attacked by things with less speed than them. This makes her give this a 3rd speed, so this has 3 speed and 4 weapon. So it's a 4/2/3, and that's pretty strong. And if you put this, the second copy of this on here, this is a 6/4/3, and it's really strong as well. Plus, while these are on the board, can't be attacked by anything with speed less than 3, really strong. So you send this guy up who can't be destroyed when attacking, so no matter what they block with, it's still going to be alive. So it's up in the battle area waiting for it to come back to your turn to bring it back. And while it's up here, it's safe because this guy says it can't die. This is really, really powerful. I think there's a lot to be had with this deck. I think that you could do some really, really cool stuff. And I'm really excited to try to build around this faction. It's weird because as much as I don't really like this half of the deck, I think this half is really interesting and presents some great opportunities. They both kind of have the same sort of similar idea going on of just beefing up units for like big alpha strikes. But this deck, I just think, does it a lot better. It's a lot more consistent. There's only, one faction instead of 3. And I think it just kind of does the same thing the Robotech Southern Cross deck is trying to do, but just simpler. With this small of a card pool, making it that intricate doesn't lend itself well. I think there's probably something to be had with the Robotech Masters deck if you really wanted to build it and bought, 10 copies of this deck to run basics of. But I still think that the Masters half of the deck is much better. Southern Cross, fine, but Masters, I think, is probably a playable deck. Either way, that's it for this one. We're gonna keep going here. Next up, we've got the 2 Zentradi decks. We got Azonia's forces as well as Bretai's forces. And then finally we'll get into looking at the beta deck and just to see how that compares to the cards that finally actually came into play. It's funny to look at how much different those cards look than the final released product. Anyway, thanks for hanging out. This is I think the longest video yet. There's a lot to kind of discuss with this deck for as little as I like about the Southern Cross. I keep forgetting the name of this brown faction here, but anyway, thanks. See you next time.